Okay, yesterday we completed the backend API for Node.js. We just used the array to manipulate the data. In real world, we will not use array. We will use parse server or MySQL or MongoDB. But I wanted to show you the Node.js API, how it is built, so we build it in simple array. So let's do today is today is 5th Jan. Today we'll use React application to utilize that API which we built yesterday. So we will be doing same thing what we did in while learning the React app. That is, we will be doing Todo app, Todo web application, and Todo web application. But we will be using this Node.js API as a backend. With Node.js API as a backend, and we will also use axios to fetch the API, to call the API. Okay, axios is nothing but a utility package like fetch, which we already did in learning the React app. So it's similar to fetch. So let's try to create. So we'll come back to this project and again, because this project is the event management and we have to do few more things here. And let's go to new folder. Project 0011, and let's copy let's copy this all files inside the project level. Okay, what is this? I will say project in the project layout, I'll say project 11, and in the home page I'll say Todo application. Right now I don't need, okay, I need the user when I send the user. Todo application logout. Okay, let's see how it works. Okay, let's go to the app.js and we will call the project 11 for now. So to use Axios, we have to install the Axios module. So Axios module will be installed here in the client folder because we are using it in the React. I'll go to the client folder and I'll say npm install axios. Okay, so we are just installing the axios here. Okay, so we just install the axios and we are on. Let's refresh this page. Okay, so we have our project running and it's Todo application. And let's go here in the project layout. Let's do the class name of container. So it goes little bit here. It gives some padding on the left side. Okay, so we have the name, username, and this footer. Okay. Let's put so this is our home page, and here I will write down my whole application. So the Todo application, I will just before I go anything inside it, I will create some functions. Our first function will be get data, and it will be a function, and all functions I'll be using asynchronous async, so that I can use await command, and I can wait for the data to come back from the server. This is the get call, and another one I will use the delete data, and another one which I will call whatever yesterday we built the API. We have to write the function for each one of them. Next one will be add data. So right now my utility will be to add the data and then get the data, delete the data. And if user want to edit it, he can delete the data and he can call the add data again. So I won't be doing edit, but I will create a function. Let's say if I want to edit data tomorrow, I can use it. So I will create a function, but I won't be using it. And there is also the API which we did yesterday. That is, I'll show you what the API we did. Get one. This one also I will not be doing in this application. Get one can be used if we one second. So get one can be used if we have a detailed page and we want to only get one data. So that also I'll create a function, but I won't be using it. Okay, so now let's start with the add data first, because we need to add the data. So let's do the add data. Since we are using async, always try to put try catch block in the async call. And here I'll say console.log. Generally, I can also put it in some variable and show it to the user, but right now we will just show, we will just give the error in the console. So this try catch block should be present in all the functions because all functions are async. Okay, so we put try catch block in all the functions. Now let's start with the add data. So we have to create a variable, any variable, R or response or anything. And here we have to call the axios. So to call the axios, we have to import the axios. Import. So I imported axios and now I have to call the axios here in the add data. So I'll say await and I'll put axios. Now the axios has different utility. You can read the document online and you can use it in different ways, yeah, like jQuery. Or I will show you one way which I use, but you can explore the document here. So you can also use axios.get or axios.post. So these are the different ways to call the axios. So I will be using one of the way. So my way is I will just call the axios, and here in the curly bracket I create the object kind of thing. Curly bracket I pass different things. So for example, I'll pass the URL. What is the URL I have to call? I'll pass the method. Since it is the post method, so I'll be using the method of post. Okay, and next will be what will be the data. So this is the data which we will be passing to the backend. Next will be the headers. So headers generally are passed. You put generally the header with the content type like this, or you can also put authentication if server needs authentication. Let's say tomorrow if we work on the JWT, so the JWT has a token which has to be passed in the header. So that we'll see when we'll do the JWT token. So headers, we need to pass something which we can accept in the backend. Right now, we only pass the content type. So everywhere we have to pass the content type application JSON in our case. Okay, because we are accepting the JSON in the backend and we are also returning the JSON. But this header is what we are accepting. So this will go here as a JSON, and content type it needed is a JSON. Okay, so this is the one. So what is the URL? Let's try to find the URL. I will use this add one. So URL is this one, and then I'll put that URL here. And method is the post one. Content type is now the data. So the data part is we have to build the data part here. So for data part, we need some data. Right now, I'll just put x equal to 1. I will update with the real data soon. So once we created this response, it will call this AJAX call to this with the post method and the data, whatever data I want to pass. So the data will be actually this one. This is the data which we want to pass. This is the data actually we have to pass. Right now I'm hard coding it, but I will change it to real one soon in a minute. So once we call this, Okay, so we get this the response, but since this is the add call, we don't need we 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 don't need to use this response because just it is adding the data. Only thing we are concerned with, if there's an error, we should show the error to the user, or right now in our case I'll just show it in the console.log. So actually this response is not needed, but to show what is coming, I will see what is the response. Console.log response is, so the response is response. Okay, so let's do this thing first till here, and then we will go with other functions also. Now to add the data, we need a form, and we need the form field. So let's go to this add utility which we did in previously, and I'll just copy. I'll copy all this function, all this one. So let's copy all this 4 lines from the add, from the project to add, and right now this form value is used when we have lot of fields kind of thing. But right now here in our case, we need only one field. But let's say there may be more fields tomorrow. So let's say this is the nice way. Let's copy these 3 lines also. 1 second. Yeah. So let's copy this here. So we have the initial data, and we have the form value, error loading, sets loading. Okay, this is fine. Let's go again. So let's create this form. Okay, let's create this form on the page. So handle change will call. Let's use it as a task. Okay, so I just copied from the input from the add one. So just I'm fixing the parameters. We will be using task because it is a to do task, and I will be just changing the. I'll be just changing the parameters. It is a task. Okay, 1 second. We need handle change also. We need submit button also. So let's try to. Okay, let's try to see handle change. So handle change is something whenever user try to change the input, we will be using handle change. But when we are submitting, we need to call the add data. Okay, so in the submit, we are calling handle submit, and here I will call add data. And since we need to call these 2 things in the submit one, we need to call prevent default, otherwise it will, reload the page. Because of this form, if I don't put prevent default, it will reload the page. And I'll copy this part here. Okay, so I just use this prevent default so that the form should not get refreshed, and I just call the set loading and set error equal to null. Okay, so this is just for display purpose, and I will see what response is going. So here now the task will be, I know the task will be inside the form values, so I'll just put form values dot task, and the user ID will be the user ID which I get here, so it will be just user dot ID. So we updated with the real data, and we see the response. We have to see the response now. So let's check in our code. Okay, so this is the application and this is the task, and I will just put the task here. Go to college. Okay, as soon as I click submit, you have to see what is happening in the network panel. So here we have to see what is happening in the network panel. Okay, let's see. Okay, let me click the submit button. So as soon as I click submit button, I have to tackle this one that I'll do later, but you will see the example one. In the example, we will see the request URL is the URL which I put here. This is the URL. Method is post because I called the method post here. And then what data I am passing. This is the payload, view source. This is the one I am passing to the backend. Task is to go, and user ID is the ID of the user who is logged in. And response is coming here as a success equal to 2, and the object is ID equal to whatever ID I get. This is the task. This is the response which I am getting. So it is in the JSON format like this. Because on the backend I am returning like this only. If you don't remember, let's go to the backend and see what we are returning. So yesterday we created this add one, post one. So I'm returning the success and the object. And same thing we are getting here, success and the object. Object has all things which we inserted it. So this is how we add it. Let's go to the console.log, and we just printed the response. So axios, when we print the response, axios does not give this data directly. In the axios, we get the response, and the response has the data, and in that data I will get whatever I'm getting from the server. So I don't get response directly, the same thing which we get from the server. In the axios, we get all the data inside the data keyword. So if I want to what is written from the server, it will be inside this data keyword. We get other things also like the status. You can check the status is 200, that means it's okay. If it is status is not 200, then it is bad, some problem is there. And this is the configuration which is actually for the actions, not for us. For our purpose, we only need this data part, and we need the status part to see if status is okay or not. So we added the data in the backend our API call, and we don't need right now this response because we will not do anything with the response. So just remove the response part. We just need to add it. And after adding, we will just stop the loading. So I'll say loading equal to false. And if we have error, I can set the error inside my error part. Initially I said I will only put it in console.log, but since I use this one, it has already the feature to capture the error. So I'm just putting the error here in this part. And if there is some error, we can show that error like this one. Let's show this error like this one. If we have error, we are showing already here in our home. So if some error is there, we will be showing that error. So for example, the backend is not, I am calling some URL which does not exist. Let's see what happened in that case. So since the backend failed, I am getting this error, request failed with the status code of 404 because there is no URL with API 2. Let's stop the loading also here. Let's do it again. So I'm getting this error, I'm displaying this error. So why I'm getting this error? Because this URL API 2 does not exist. So I'm getting the status code of 404. Now let's change it to the real API. Now I'll not get error. I'll say go to gym, for example. Okay, so in the backend, I get the proper response here. So if I get the proper response, I will empty this task one. So this task one should empty once I get the proper response from the backend. So I can say, I can call this handle change one, the form part, set form value. So here I will say task is equal to empty value, because we are done with that field. Let's add one more. Go to market. So as soon as I click submit, it will call the backend and then it will empty this field. So once it will call a backend, it is emptying this field. I can add more now. Okay, so this is about the adding the data. Now let's try to display the data. Let's try to add the display the data. Okay, so we are done with the add data. Now we will go with the get data part. So in the get data part, I will try to use same thing let's try to use this one so that some data is coming back. Or just will not do that. We'll skip this part. We can add this loading and error anytime. I don't want to concentrate this part now. So let's only concentrate on the axios part. So here I will create a constant response equal to await axios. Since it is the get call URL, I'll put the URL, but method is get. So I'll put the get method. And what will be the URL? So we'll see the URL in the, yesterday we built the get call. Let's check the URL for that. So this is the get all. I'll take this URL. So the URL is this one. I put this one. And now I'll check the response. What response I'm getting is. And this get call I have to call when the page loads. So when the page load, I need to call this get call. So I will write down the one use effect, and in that I'll create arrow function, and it should be called only once when the page will load, and here I will call the get data. So I'll call this function get data when the page is loaded, and I call this backend API. I get the response. I'll show this response first. Let's see in the console.log. So as soon as the page is refreshed, you will see this get call is called. You can see this is the URL and method is the get, and we get the response, some response. And what response we are getting? We are getting all the tasks which we added a few minutes back. So we are getting all the tasks: 0, go to college, go to gym, go to market, more tasks. So I did 4 tasks. I'm getting this 4 tasks here, and I will display this 4 tasks here. So let's display all the tasks here. So once I get data, I should put it in some variable. So I'll be creating another variable for the data, and here I'll set data. And initially the value will be, for example, empty array. I'll say initially there's empty array. And once I get this response, so if I get the response, I'm concerned with the data part, and inside data part, I'm concerned with the results. So this part I have to save in my data. So what I'll do, I'll say set data. Here I'll say response dot data dot results. So we have to go to the response. The response is this one. Inside response we have data. Inside data we have the results. So this is the part which we have to put in the data, because this is the part we have to display to the user. Okay, so I'm getting this part. I'm just removing this console.log. And now I have to use this data inside I will not be using any fancy thing right now for today this task. I will just display the UL and LI. So here I'll check if data is there, and data dot length is greater than 0. Okay, I'll check this before UL. So if I have this part, if I have data and data dot length is greater than 0, and so I'm checking before the UL, otherwise I will not show the UL also. And here I will do again data.map, and inside map I'll say item, and here I will return li tag with the key equal to item.id. We will be having the ID also from the backend, and here I will display item.task, and I can say yeah, this task is fine. So as soon as the page will refresh, so I'm getting all this all these items here, and I'm displaying each item task here. So I'll do some modification. Instead of UL, I will put the fragment, and to add the fragment I'll just use empty tag to make it fragment, and inside the fragment I will put the UL tag, and here I can give so to make little. So as the list of tasks, this go to college, go to gym, go to market, go to task. I also want to do when I enter something and I click submit, this task should get immediately updated. And so for that, as soon as I call the add data, and then once I'm done with the add data, I will call the get data again. So after I'm done with the add data, as soon as I'll add data, I will call get data. So once user add it, it will automatically call the get data and the results will be updated in the screen. So for example, so I will put some data, drink tea. So as soon as I click submit, it will appear here in the list of tasks because it is added and then this call the get call. So I'm getting the get call here. If you see in the console.log, I will add more data. Drink water, for example. So you'll see first call is the add one with the post method, and once it is done, we are getting the get call and we are getting the results back here. I can refresh the page also. Since the backend is not restarted, I can get the all data back again. I can add few more. So I'm not checking the validation part here, so all empty items are also going. Now let's try to delete it, and we'll not do the edit part and get one because it is not required in this case, but it will be similar like add data and delete data. But maybe you can have the task to utilize the edit data and get one. When user click edit data, you create a new component and send user to another component with edit part, and user should be able to edit it. And there is a detail page. You can create a detail page with the get one function and call this function. So maybe it is your homework to do these two things. Okay, let's do now the delete part. So delete part will be also similar. I'll just call, I'll call directly, I'll await axios, and here I'll say method is delete, and I'll say URL is equal to, what is the URL? Let's check. So this is a delete record. For the delete record, we need this ID here, otherwise it won't be able to delete it. So we need, so I'll use the backtick, and I'll call this URL, and ID will be passed here, and I'll use this ID here. So in the delete one, I will call the ID, and I will use that ID here. And after I delete it, I will call the get data again. Okay, and here in each task item, I will just give the the delete link, and here I can say on click it will be arrow function, and in the arrow function I'll say delete data, and I'll pass the ID. ID is item.id. So I just paused it, and here also I'll give the some styling. It looks like a link. So I'll say cursor equal to pointer, and I'll give the color of blue. So it will look like a link. So let's refresh it. Okay, so now we have task, and I have delete item here. So as soon as I click delete, you will see this delete is called with this URL and the method of delete, and I'm getting some response success equal to true. I can delete. After deleting, it is refreshing the data. Okay, so this is the item. I can add more item, and I can use the delete part. Okay, so now three things are completed. One is called the add data, delete data, and the get data. Maybe you can do the edit and get one. In the edit one, only change will be it will be similar to the add data, but it should also pass the ID. You need to pass the ID also, like we have the edit call. So in the edit call, we need to pass ID here, like delete one, and we need to pass this data like the add one. So data should be passed like add one, but the URL should be similar to the delete one. And you can call this to another component and then bring it back to this component. So something you can try these two things, and if you're not able to do, I will do it in some few days. Maybe in 2-3 days I will try to do the same thing. But it's just similar to add one, and this get one is also similar to, we have to pass the ID and we have to use the get data. So mixture of these two will be the get one. Okay, so these two things you can do whenever you get the time. So this is all about the axios call in this React part. We will be also using axios in the backend Node.js, and it will be the similar as I use it here. So we can use it in Node.js also. We can use it in client side also. Okay, let's see what more we can do now. So another function, the simple functionality which we can do today is the email kind of thing. So whenever you want to send the email to the user, custom email, we'll be doing that part now. So I have the index.js, and in this index.js, no, it's not this one. I have to go to backend index.js. This is my Node.js index.js. Let's try to do the email part. Right now we have the email adapter with the parse server, but this adapter is something used by the parse server, so I cannot use this for my custom email. So I'll be using the email part using my custom thing, custom prompt to everything. So just try to use that one. Before putting that, I will create one config file in my server. I will create a new file. So we are here. I'll create a new file called as config.js, and I'll try to put everything in this config. So for example, I'll take this one. I'll create var email settings. So this is email settings. And what else I can put? I can put the server URL. I can put the database URL. I'm just putting in the config. I will put the app ID. I'll put my master key. So in addition to master key, I will also use one more key called as REST API key. This key is used, whenever I will call the axios. Generally, we are using parse server from the React part, but if I want to use the parse server from my NodeJs application, I need this REST API key. Or I can also put everything in the cloud, then I don't need the REST API key. If I put some function in the cloud, then I don't need the REST API key. But if I want to call using axios, I need this REST API key. So I will also be, so in the index, I will say REST API key, and here I want to give the REST API key. This one. So this one I will add in the config also, and right now I'm putting everything in the config, but I have not used in the index.js file. I will be using it soon. Let's put another thing. For example, let's change the app name. Okay. So for now, this is fine. I will be now we have to export this. It will be not like React export constant email setting that is in the React. In Node.js, we have to export in a different way, and we will export like this: module.export equal to an object. We will export as object, and we'll take each one and key value, and I will export everything from here. Key value, key and value, key and value. Since key and value are same, I can delete the value, so it will be same. Since the name is same, so I just put all the values here. And let's grab the config here in this index file. So I'll say config equal to require config. Let's check what is coming in the config. So as soon as the node is started, I can see the config is coming as whatever we created there. Now let's use this config here instead of that. So this URL will be config.js database URL. Server URL will be config.server URL. App ID will be config.app ID. Master key will be config.master key. REST API key will be config.REST API key. And this email options will be config.email settings. Okay, so we updated all here except this one. Let's update this part also. Config.app ID. Here we don't need REST key, we need only the master key. Config.master key. Okay, app name is fine. We can put this also in config, but right now I don't want to put it. So we are getting now everything from the config, and let's see, this is running fine. So let's delete this config console.log. Now we will install one package for email, and that package is called NodeMailer. So I will say npm install save NodeMailer. So this is the package, because many times we need to send the email to the user, and then we need this package to send the email to the user. So all the email related stuff I will be putting in this mail routes. And so let's create this mail route till that gets installed. Yesterday I showed you what is needed, 3 lines of the code which we need for any route. With these 3 lines of the code: express, router, and module.export. And I will put this in the mail routes. And here I'll be creating different routes. So first thing, this NodeMailer is installed. So here we need to add more import. So I will just saying constant NodeMailer equal to require NodeMailer. So this NodeMailer I require, and also I need config equal to require config. Okay. So this is the place we will be putting all our mail routes, and we'll do this tomorrow. I will not do this tomorrow because it's little complicated for today, and time is up now. So NodeMailer is installed, and we'll use the NodeMailer tomorrow. And we'll also do the upload part. We'll start the upload part also, how to upload the files on the server. These 2 parts we'll complete tomorrow. If you have any questions, you can ask. Otherwise, we'll meet tomorrow.